Big NATO news today. Welcome to Foreign Policy with Dan. Today we're going to chat about the announcement from the NATO chief today on their defense spending. So in 2014, the NATO alliance basically all agreed to a 2% spending requirement on defense for all of its member nations. And this 2% basically means that these countries have to spend 2% of their overall GDP, their gross domestic product, on defense spending. And you can see here that the number of NATO members that have been meeting this 2% spending requirement has been growing over time until most recently in 2024, we can see that 23 of the member states have hit that 2% minimum spending requirement. However, right, some countries are a lot bigger than others, and that 2% can mean a lot or little depending on which country that you're talking about. And so we're looking at here the kind of comparison between the actual dollar amount spending between the United States, which is in kind of the dark blue on the bottom, and then the NATO, Europe, and Canada spending on the top. So you can see that for the last 10 years, the United States has eclipsed the spending from a pure dollar sign standpoint from all the NATO countries and Canada combined. And so now we're back to the kind of announcement today where the NATO chief is now calling for an increase of that spending from 2% to actually increase to 3.5% as a spending requirement for countries that are a part of the NATO alliance. This is all really on the heels of Trump himself and the Trump administration being very vocal about how the United States was really kind of carrying Europe's defense on its back, and how the other countries in NATO have been relying on the United States far too much to spend money on defense, and basically have kind of shied away from spending more on their defense because they always felt like the United States could kind of carry the load. And so now we're seeing, a lot of these NATO countries wake up and realize, hey, maybe we have been relying a little bit too much on the United States for our defense spending, particularly, with the Russia invasion of Ukraine and the United States response to that conflict. So, while the Trump administration may view this percentage increase as a win, particularly if the other allied countries are meeting that 3.5% spending, it does kind of trade our influence a little bit, right? Historically, the United States has been that big spender, and because of that, we've kind of been able to dictate a lot of the relationship between us and Europe. And now that may be changing a little bit. We're seeing these countries rely less and less on the United States as a reliable partner. We have the